Hi, I'm Michelle Chalfant, psychotherapist, holistic life coach, and human just like you, learning to navigate life's challenges. With over 25 years experience, I teach people how to get healthy using the adult chair model. The adult chair model is where simple psychology meets grounded spirituality, and it teaches us how to become healthy adults. From anxiety and depression to codependency and relationship issues, you can use the adult chair for just about anything. Each week, I share practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and a wide range of experts on how to get unstuck, how to live authentically, and how to truly love yourself, all while sitting in your adult chair. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. So, welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast, Dr. Shefali.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you and your listeners.
Well, thank you so much for the book that you have just written. Honestly, and I said this to you before, and I don't say this for any other reason than it's true for me. It is one of the best books I've ever read.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Radical awakening. I mean, I think our world needs this so much right now. So thank you for taking the time to write the book. I said to you, I'm a slow reader. I couldn't put the thing down. I was like going through it so quickly. And then when I thought about the interview today, I think I've printed off, I'm going to show you, probably 50 pages. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good. This is so good. I'm highlighting away and I'm like, okay, I don't have hours with her. So I'm going to try to break it down for our listeners, but I'm just going to say to everybody, go get this book. It will change your life. It's so good. All right. So let's talk about this. Why this book, Radical Awakening?
Because we women especially need to snap out of our chronic servility, helplessness, and unworthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I document my own radical awakening to some degree in this book, as well as all the women I've worked with. And I see us falling into the same trap. It doesn't matter if the woman is from Pakistan or Greece or Northern America. It doesn't matter if she's rich, poor, white, or black. We are entranced in this toxic patriarchy to be a certain way. And that certain way is killing us, our soul, our spirit, our authenticity. And we cannot waste our life never discovering our true self. So this book is really an homage to the true self that is buried within us all, that has been suppressed because of the conditioning of the toxic patriarchy.
Wow. I loved, you jump right into it. Even in, you have the book sectioned off into parts, but part one, you talk about that we are asleep in the matrix, and chapter one is all about soul erosion. You're going to hear me say, I love this. I loved it. It's the death of the true self. And you said women lose their power, authority, voice, and vision. And you call this, I loved this, an obliteration of our inner knowing. So true. So true. So can we even avoid this? Like as children, how does this happen? And is it possible to avoid it and come out of our childhoods as being healthy?
Well, there are degrees to it, right? So it
Yeah.
depends on the consciousness of the parent. And that's why I talk a lot about conscious parenting as the key to healing our planet. So, because our mothers, and I'm just using the mother as the prime
Mm-hmm.
example, but it could be earliest caregivers, were raised themselves in this unconscious, stereotypical way to play small, to be at the back of the line, to put everyone before us, and to disconnect from their own voice. Listen, boys are disconnected from their own voice too. They
Mm-hmm.
just get greater leeway than we girls get. We girls are given a very strict paradigm to live under. And because we are naturally connectors, by our biology, by the way our hormones are set up, we are full of connection and nurturing. So put the message of the toxic patriarchy on top of our natural inclination to give, to nurture, to care, to connect. Now you have a disaster of a situation where we have completely absconded ourselves for the sake of giving. So we are loving creatures, we're nurturing creatures, we are the heart of this planet. But when we're told that we can be only given worth if we put other people before us, now that giving heart leads to an obliteration of ourself.
Mm, that's so powerful. So this book is written for women, but men can also learn from this book because I would guess that they're learning how they're doing this to women. Would you say
Yes,
that?
their daughters, and how they're
Yeah.
unconsciously part of a
Yeah.
system that allows women to be quiet and disconnected and not know their inner knowing. You know,
Yeah.
women more than men do not know their inner knowing. That's why in the Me Too movement, women took so long to come forward, because they were genuinely scared
Mm-hmm.
to occupy the position of inner knowing. So they created justifications out of fear that it didn't happen, or it wasn't as bad as others may, disregard what I'm saying, and they may poo poo
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying. So we out talk ourselves from our inner
Yeah.
knowing, because we're so afraid to step into our power. You know, the other day I had a conversation with four men, all very successful men in the real world, quote unquote, the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just marveling at how they were arguing with each other and saying what they needed from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And no one had any fear about, debating each other. And I was just thinking, women in that position would take so long to come to that inner knowing and occupying that inner sovereignty, because we've been trained to do exactly the opposite. But men are given leeway to speak their mind
Mm-hmm.
and invade boundaries and take over the conversation. And we women have such a hard time, because we are told to be the givers, to be the
Yes.
nurturers, to be the connectors, to allow other people to speak before us.
So true. And you talk about the triple threat that happens in childhood, the craving for approval, validation, and praise. Like we're doomed because you're right. As little girls, we're doomed. I mean, we're going to be women that then get into relationships and we're seeking approval, validation, and praise.
Yeah, it's so
So
subtle. This
true.
Yeah, it's so subtle but pernicious, this conditioning that we do to little girls and
Yeah.
don't do to little boys as much. And we train our girls to need the crumbs of love and worth from their parents and external
Yes.
society. And we
Yes.
train them to want approval. And approval is, at its very core level, permission. We train them to seek permission from the outside all the time. Can I do this? Can I exist? And then we train them to to need validation. Oh, am I good enough? And then we train them to need praise. Can you celebrate me? And we
Mhm.
don't train them to tune in for these things. We train them to tune out for these things. And so by the time the girl grows into a woman, she's already doomed.
Yeah.
And now women do it to each other. We're training each other to need these things from the outside. We buy up all the makeup, we are doing all the
Mhm.
plastic surgery. Now we're all part of the herd that have completely endorsed that we are how we look. We are our roles of wife and mother. And now we've put successful entrepreneur on top of that. We are how we parent, how we mother. So we are training each other now to be enslaved within the patriarchy. Now the patriarchy is not even doing it. They've done it so well that we have internalized the oppressor.
Mm. Mm. I love that. But this book is going to wake us up. Like I'm getting, like I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh, that's so true. But then I think, but I read the book and it is about, again, I think I shared with you, this is like how to live in the adult chair. Basically, it's how
Yeah.
do you live in the healthiest, most conscious version of yourselves. That's what this book about is all about. And you teach people how you awaken out of the dream state they're in, out of this unconscious state.
Yeah, the matrix is so seductive. That's why the whole first part of the
Yes.
book is called Asleep in the Matrix. We don't even know we're asleep, because the matrix is so seductive. It's like an opioid web den where we're
Yeah.
all inducing the same drug. We're all drugged by these prescriptions, and we don't even know it was a drug. Like if we left like Plato's cave, if we left the cave, we would realize that we didn't have to be in it in the first place. But not only are we in it, we suffer it. Not only do we suffer it, we pass it on to our children. We've
So
bought
true.
into it hook, line, and sinker. We're completely drugged. So
Yeah.
taking accountability that we are staying in the cave, in the den, is the real message of this book. How do I take accountability for my own suffering?
And I love this because when you talked about, when we were talking about conscious parenting,
Yes.
the parents need this book to awaken. Everybody needs this book, but we need this to awaken so then we can change how we're even parenting our children and live for more consciousness. All right, one of my favorite subjects is the ego, and you talk about the ego, which I loved. The role of the ego. Tell us, what is the role of the ego?
When we were children and we were invalidated for our authentic self, we learned very quickly through osmosis that, oh, my parents want me to be another way. And whether we could follow that way or we reacted to that way, we create a false self. The false self is the ego. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, the ego did us a favor by protecting us against the pain of that invalidation. But as we keep clinging onto it, we realize when we grow up, oh my goodness, my whole life is performing from that false self. So who the hell am I?
Yeah.
Now you have to go on a journey, and that's when you radically awaken. The radical awakening is to realize that you've been asleep and living in false self this whole time, and now you go on the awakening journey. But the awakening is the shock of realizing I am totally inauthentic. When I went through my radical awakening, I asked myself one question. I said to myself, I'm going to examine and observe and witness how many lies I tell myself and other people, and how many times I don't speak from truth. I
Mm.
literally began to observe that everything out of my mouth was coming out of the agenda to be seen as the good one, to please the other, to get love and worth. I was like, damn it, do I say anything out of like really my desire? And I was like, very little. So I
Yeah.
stopped talking for a while because I pledged that I would only start talking the truth. But everything I was saying was out of the beggar mentality of please see me, please give me, please
Yes.
see me as lovely, please honor me. And I was like, wow, I'm a real beggar. All I do is beg. So
Mm.
that was the radical awakening, to realize that I'm always needy. I'm always in lack, desiring control. Like, when am I in abundance? And then I went on a real journey, although I thought I was already on a journey, but I went on a real journey to enter my worth and abundance, and to soar and to fly and to be liberated out of my own beggar mentality. And that is really what this book is about, is telling women, can you stop begging? You have everything within you, and you just
Yeah.
realize it.
But but we're so disconnected from our true selves. We don't know who we are at all. We
Yes.
don't, and we don't listen to those voices. I'm thinking about all these things. I'm like, you're so right. We don't listen to what's going on the inside. We do what we're supposed to do. We do what we should do. I remember when I had my first son, and I was in the middle of changing jobs. I found out I was pregnant. I was nauseous and very sick, so I didn't get a job. I had the baby. And I realized within a few months, I'm like, I really miss my job. I want to work, but I'm supposed to, air quotes, stay home. My
Yes.
mother stayed home. My grandmother stayed home. Am I not supposed to stay home? And I had an inner battle for so long. And then I said, you know what? I miss my clients. I'm going to start part-time. And then I felt so like imbalance again. I felt like I could breathe again. I realized I'm not here to be a stay-at-home mom, and it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wasn't able to say to myself. It's okay.
We have so much guilt,
Oh, I had tremendous guilt.
but the modern woman is really kind of doomed now,
Mm-hmm.
because she wants to do it all. And sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day. So she is in a bit of a conflict. And that's why I talk a lot about compassion, timing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we can't do it all. We want to have
Yes.
a child, but we want to have the corporate job. Well, sometimes we can't do both. So now we have to pace ourselves, but allowing ourselves the room for that exploration without guilt on either side. Oh, I should be skinny in 10 days after giving birth, or I
Mm-hmm.
should be with my kid 24/7 and never go to the gym. We don't have to live in these dualistic polarities anymore and torture ourselves. There
Yeah.
is time for everything. For the first 7 to 8 years of my daughter's life, I couldn't do what I'm doing now, but I did other things to nurture that spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes we women in the modern era think we need to be successful entrepreneurs, just like women need to be successful mothers. we don't need to do anything other than what we can do with compassion. So
Yeah.
we should, just like we don't have to have guilt about not being home all the time, we also should not have guilt about not being successful in the external world all the time. You
Agree.
know, if that
Mm-hmm.
is coming out of a need, then both of them are quote unquote defective ways of thinking. What we need to do is attune to what needs priority right now
Mm-hmm.
and limit ourselves to what is possible with compassion. If you've just given birth, you cannot be a size zero. Can we
Right.
have compassion for that?
Right.
On the other hand, if we want to go exercise and leave our kid with a nanny, that's okay too. We should examine where our needs are coming from. Because just like we don't want to be stay at home moms necessarily, we also may be driven to be successful entrepreneurs out of the same need that
Mm-hmm.
another woman may have to be the best stay at home mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
examine the need. Where is
Well,
this coming from?
well, examine what the heck's going on inside of you and your intuition, because it will guide. It's like our personal navigation system if we would listen, but it's
Yes.
so turned off. I love what you said here when you talk about the ego. You said there isn't a person I know who has escaped the replacement of their us with their authentic self, with their persona, the mask behind which their true self lies largely dormant. Oh my God. I was like, yes. And then I got sad. I was like, it's so true.
Yes, it's so
Everyone,
sad. It's so
it's
sad. It is
so
a tragedy.
sad.
It's a tragedy that we all are wearing these masks and trying to get approval from social media followers who we don't even know. First, it was grandma. Now it's
Yes.
strangers.
Now it's exactly
Yeah,
social media.
yeah, grandma was bad enough, but
Yeah.
now we want it from,
So true.
every single human being on social media. And
Yeah.
we are just enslaving ourselves with this desire to get approval, validation, and praise. And we need to break it, wake up, and realize that people cannot give us anything. Really, nobody can give us
Yeah.
anything. Our parents could have given us something, but what they gave us was shame and guilt and unworthiness. That
Yeah.
they gave us. But besides that initial parental bond of desiring deep connection and to be seen, the rest of the world can't give us what wasn't given to us in childhood. Now we need to go back and reparent and remother ourselves. And I talk about that a lot. And I
Mhm.
know that's what your podcast is
Mhm.
about reparenting yourself.
It
Guess
is.
what? Mom was unconscious, your
Yep.
partner is unconscious, culture is unconscious. Don't look for them to give you your core needs. Your core needs now need to be given by yourself. So this book is really about marrying yourself and
Mhm.
realizing, wow, I am my best friend. I am my best mother. I am my best healer.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And when you talk about awakening, I'm thinking people are listening to this going, okay, okay, tell me how. I say the same thing. And this is why, again, I resonated with the whole book. The only way out is in. We have to go in to heal. But yet at the same time, it's like we want it so badly. Like we know it's like, I want what's on the other side of that wall, but you got to go through the wall, and the wall is our pain. And you talk a lot about, I like the separating from the mainstream. And then you talked about deconstructing the pattern. This may be one of my most profound insights as a therapist. You said, we don't live a life, we live a pattern. Then you go on to say, these patterns are a way of answering these questions. Am I loved? Am I seen? Am I worthy? I mean, oh, we're driven by these things. It's like, go inside. But how do we do that? Like, we don't, and I loved when you talked about, spiritual bypassing. It's like we want to heal, but I don't want it to hurt.
Yeah,
I don't want to go
yeah.
through all that pain, and it's like,
Yeah, I want to change my life, but I want no one in my life to be upset with me and leave me.
yes,
You know? It's
yes,
infantile fantasies of not being able to think of ourselves as capable of handling pain. Part of
yeah,
our conditioning was that pain was painful, so avoid it. So
yeah,
this is a culture of great avoidance of pain. That's
mhm,
why this culture is addicted, because we don't want to sit with ourselves, feel our feelings, and enlighten ourselves. We are a culture of instant gratification and constant distraction, and
true,
putting band-aids on the pain. So no wonder we don't want to awaken, because holy shit, like I have to sit with myself, I have to go within, I have to
yeah,
not be addicted to food and substances and people, and I have to develop the inner reservoir touch that inner reservoir. But in order to touch the inner reservoir of worth, I have to look at how I have set myself up to not have worth. So now I have to look at myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to see myself through every interaction. So I can't blame other people. I can't be victimized anymore. I have to own what I am creating, perpetuating patterns in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very painful to take accountability. It's a very grown up thing to do, but we all are still stuck as children. We're inner toddlers still, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I hear again and again, like we have to stop doing, stop covering up, stop reaching for vices. We have to be in it, be in all of it. Can we do this alone? This awakening? Is this something that we can do without going to therapy or coaching or whatever? Is this a process that we can do all by ourselves?
I really, don't think so, only because it's it takes somebody from the outside to have some objectivity to tell you, hey, did you see that? Did you just hear yourself? So
Yeah.
yeah, if you video record yourself and if you audio record yourself, you could possibly do it to yourself, but it takes some training and acumen. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I teach this stuff. I do
Mm-hmm.
courses. So right now, this book is coming out next month, but I'm accompanying it with a 10-day deep dive course to deconstruct what the book says, because it's even
Mm.
hard to read the book and change. You need
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
So it's really important to not look at this as a shameful thing, or that because we're inadequate, but we just need assistance of somebody who's trained to notice patterns. So a coach, a therapist, or a very wise friend can do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I really recommend people to get a coach who's objective, who can help you
Mm-hmm.
discern your own traps.
It's the ego. It's
Yeah,
really, really, really hard to see our own ego and all the masks and all the personas that we wear. It's like it's hard to see that.
it's
We
very
need
hard to
someone to
see.
reflect it.
Yeah, and people are not willing to be that honest with themselves
They're not.
and to see their hidden agendas. So we need somebody from the outside to wake us up, and
Yeah.
and the teacher pupil lineage of meditation, of wisdom, is there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
because we always need wise people to wake us up. However, we have to choose the right people,
Yes.
so that our ego doesn't set us up and we choose, quote unquote, the wrong people, and then we stop our journey. you
Right.
know it's a convenient way to stop the journey. Oh, the therapist was bad. Oh, I didn't like her hairstyle. So we have to watch how our ego always wants a way out of this process.
Yeah. And if you feel like you found the wrong person, then go look for another one. Keep
Exactly.
going. Okay, you say this on page 178. When this is why we need to do this. Everything you're doing, the online course, read the book, because when we awaken, we choose to live by fact, then fiction. And I love this part. We step out of denial and confront our life in a different and transparent way. We refuse to silence our truth because it makes others uncomfortable. Our connection to ourselves is too vital and powerful to dismiss anymore. Ah, yes. I work with a lot of people that are in abusive relationships, and this is not just about them, but it's just like we're so numb. We live with fiction. We don't live with facts, and we suppress our voice. We tone down. We one down ourselves.
Yeah,
It's time to stop.
by telling ourselves fictitious stories,
Yep.
deserve it, it's not their fault, or my life will be terrible without this person, or
Yeah.
what will people say, or I can't do it, or I need more money. And we don't realize that those are all the ego's ways of keeping us stagnant and small and not breaking free out of whatever dysfunctional pattern we're in, and maintaining the status quo.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves the greatest stories in the world, and we don't
Oh,
know we're telling ourselves stories.
yep. Absolutely. That's the problem. We don't even know.
Yeah,
We
we
don't
pretend
know. We
we
think it's truth.
we think it's true, and then we are great psychics. We're like, oh, if I did this, then I just know all my friends will be angry with me, or I just know I'll be miserable in the future. And I always
Mhm.
tell people, who made you psychic?
Yes. I
Is your
say the same thing.
right? Is your present moment unpalatable,
Yeah.
indigestible? Let's just change the present moment and deal with the future moment when it becomes the present moment.
Yeah.
But people are
Yep.
just so afraid. So they create these stories about the future to stay in the present and justify their misery.
Justify their misery. So accurate. So as we then begin to awaken, one of the things that you talked about is stepping into the queen archetype. I loved it. Talk about that, because I think that we're afraid to embrace that inner queen that we all have the ability to embrace, but
Yeah.
we're too afraid of it because it's powerful.
Yeah. So when people hear queen or king energy, they may immediately think that's so selfish or that's so narcissistic.
Yep.
Well, the greatest narcissism is to pretend you're not a queen or a king and not own your voice. You
Mhm.
know, anxious people can be narcissistic, depressed people can be narcissistic. So queen is the antithesis of narcissism, which says, hey, this is how I feel. This is who I am. No masks. Take me or leave me, and I give you permission to go. That's not
Ooh.
narcissistic. That
Mhm.
is actually being the most transparent and honest. When we pretend and we wear masks, that's narcissistic because we are lying to ourselves and other people to keep them in our lives because we are self absorbed. We need them. Queen energy doesn't need unconscious or misaligned people around her. The queen says that there's bounty in the world and there's bounty within myself. So I no longer need misaligned energy or mismatched energy just because culture tells me I need it, because I have enough within. So when we step into our queen energy, we begin letting go of a lot of unconscious people around us. And that's very scary. But it must be done if we think of ourselves as worthy. I'm not worthy of this unconsciousness. And we let toxic people go very lovingly
Mm.
because we say we're not aligned anymore. And we
Right.
come from this place of deep alignment to our own truth, to our own transparency. And we're not interested in playing games anymore or lying in order to keep the other person comfortable. No
Mm.
one is more important than us when we enter our queen energy. Now, again, that sounds horrifically selfish for a mother to say, but
Yes.
I still stand by it that I am the most important person in my life. Why do I say that? With queen energy versus narcissistic energy is because when I honor my own self, then I also, with that, hold myself accountable to give myself that. Now I release my child from giving that to me. So I'm actually the least narcissistic when I hold myself worthy of not only queen energy, but also meeting my own needs.
Yes. And you say the queen understands that she is deserving of space and to be big and loud, deserving of respect and celebration, deserving of patience and loyalty, deserving of attention and validation, deserving of indulgent care, deserving of truth and honesty. It's
Right, but she
just
doesn't get it in hidden, disguised, sneaky ways of
no.
narcissist. She says, here I am. Oh, I see that you have other priorities. Oh, I see that you just want to talk to me in this degrading way. Oh, I see that you're invalidating me all the time. Oh, no problem. I don't hold you responsible. I
Yep.
don't hold you accountable. I hold myself. So I will take myself out of the equation. See, that's the
Yes.
pivotal change
That's
versus
it.
the
Mhm.
narcissist who sucks on the other person either through insidious disguises or through nonstop complaining.
And manipulation to try to get them to give us what we want. It's none of
Right,
that's not
right. The queen goes,
controlling.
oh, yes, yes. The queen goes, oh, I see I'm not needed here. No problem. You're not supposed to need me. You're not supposed to want me. You're not supposed to desire me. I'm out. I get it. Right? We allow the other person to reject us
Yes.
because we don't hold them responsible for our inner state of worth. Now, that is the queen.
That's can you say that again? I want to make sure everybody just heard what you said.
Well, the queen doesn't look for anyone's approval. So when they reject her, she doesn't hold them responsible for her feeling rejected. She goes, you can reject me because I am essentially unrejectable from inside. No one can truly reject my queen essence. So when the queen steps into that, she's okay with people not liking her or rejecting her. She's like, I get it. You're a queen in your own right. You're a king. You do what you need to do. I do what I need to do.
Yeah. It's such beautiful self-care. I mean, it's gorgeous. I sit here and I'm like, that is the ultimate in self-care. And
You
it's
have to
not
really love
selfish.
yourself that much, though.
Yeah.
And
Can
that's very radical for people
it's
because they
very
don't
radical.
People don't love themselves that much. But,
I agree.
I love myself. I am not ashamed to say it or shy. I'm like, I freaking love who I am as much as I love other people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want them to love other people more than me. Why would I do that? That is such martyr, sacrificial,
Mm-mm.
stereotypical bullshit.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And it's so hard. It's like we all want to learn how to love ourselves. And then when we start loving ourselves, there's guilt. But then
Absolutely.
I can't now. Now it's too much, isn't it? Am I being too much? No, you're speaking up for yourself. You're having beautiful self care. And then there's guilt around it. It's so confusing being a woman. It
Yes, because
really
we're
is.
also raised in this, Western religious ideology that we should suffer.
Yeah, true.
Life is not suffering in the sense of this kind of endless inauthenticity. It's suffering because it's unpredictable and we suffer that. But again, we
Yeah.
suffer even that because we don't understand life. But it certainly isn't this psychological suffering that we endure, it's
Mm.
conditioning.
True. It's just conditioning, and we can break free from it and we can radically awake.
Absolutely, we can break free from it, and people are longing for us to break free for it from it. We
Yeah.
don't realize that the people who are going to reject us, when they do reject us and we stop playing their game, it's actually we're doing them a service because now they get to realize, wow, maybe I'm being inauthentic. Maybe I'm being needy. It When we end the inauthenticity in our own lives, we set the stage for the possibility. I'm not saying it'll happen for
Hmm.
other people to be emboldened to create authenticity in their own lives.
Mm. Wow. Everything you've said is powerful, every single thing. So thank you again for writing this book. Really beautiful, beautifully done. Where can people find you in this course that goes along with this book? Tell us.
Well, the book is called A Radical Awakening. So they can go to aradicalawakening.com and then click the button for the 10-day course that accompanies this. And they get 3 books for free with the purchase of
Wow.
the course.
Okay.
So aradicalawakening.com or to my website, drshefali.com.
Perfect. We will put all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for all you do and thank you for listening.
Thank you.